Why your avatar and your brand matters. Why you should always dress for success and look like a professional. I thought about changing my shirt. I probably would have gone and putting on another cutoff, but it might not have had a little stain on it. But this is where I get to be. I've been coaching real estate agents for a decade, and I have a reputation, and what I do works. And so you're giving me a little more slack and grace than maybe you otherwise if you had never heard about me or we never worked together before. And so I want you to have that as your frame of reference. You're a brand new agent, and so we can't afford to not show up looking like a professional every dang day. You know, you're going to see a lot of agents. They meet their clients in a suit and tie, and now they're wearing jeans and a hoodie, and you're going to be tempted to do the same. And I strongly encourage you to never do that. Let's wait until we've sold 24 homes, right? That's like hopefully no more than a couple years away before we start to not look at our best every day. So you might be selling homes to a friend and you're like, they understand me, they get me. I'm going to tell you, sometimes working with friends as a new agent is one of the most difficult things you're going to do, because they do know you. They know you're brand new. See, they want to work with you, but they're still leaning on their Zillow knowledge. And we have got to begin to share with them that you're a professional. So the best way to do that is for our friends and the ones that we actually have a relationship with, we show up in our Sunday best. You don't phone it in. When I just started selling real estate, I had been waiting tables before that, and I rode my bicycle to work. My wife had a nice car, and I had a $1,300 Mazda B2300. I didn't even drive it to work because it wasn't that reliable. And so I waited for her to come home to do showings. And if my car didn't work, I had a buddy that I borrowed his car. I had an outfit. It was one outfit. I had a pair of slacks, a nice pair of shoes, and there was like 2 or 3 different button-down shirts. And I wore those every single day without fail. And I drove a nice car to all my showings. I knew I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't want to give the client any reason to also not think I didn't know what I was doing. So I dressed for success. So that's part of it. Dress for success every dang day. I would encourage you even more so that when you start to go out in your friends, because more than half your business this first year more than likely is going to come from your sphere of influence, start showing up nicer to those random casual events. You're going over to a buddy's house for a barbecue. You want to just throw on your Havaiana slippers and a cutoff shirt. Well, don't, because you don't know if at that party he's going to introduce you to someone that might actually be a potential piece of business. So you've got to wear your uniform every single day for this next couple years. I mean, just get used to it. Now let's talk about your uniform. You know, I want you to know there's this great story in the book, David versus Goliath. It's all about how sometimes using the obstacles that got in your way that actually are a strong point for you. One of the examples he uses is there was this attorney, and young guy, he had dyslexia, and so he had a hard time reading. So he just memorized. He had a great memory, so he just memorized case law after case law after case law, and he went on to have an incredibly good success in his law practice because he had memorized so many case laws, because his obstacle, his hang-up, was something that kind of held him back. There's another story in that book about this young man. He'd been fired from so many jobs, but he finally had a job at Starbucks. Every time someone smarted off to him or treated him poorly, he'd yell right back at him. And so he worked at Starbucks, and it was that very first week, he got in a little bit of a tiff with a client, and his manager, instead of firing him, pulled him aside and said, "Hey man, I need you to know this, is that you're getting too offended at people. They're going to be upset for a variety of reasons. But when you put on this green apron is a uniform, man. It's like a superhero's cape. Nothing they say can penetrate to you because you're wearing this cape. So don't let their offenses get to you." Well, this young guy went on to become a store manager, right? And so you got to put on your uniform. And you also have to know that when you're wearing your uniform, there's nothing anyone can say that's going to offend you. You're a brand new agent, right? So they might be talking down to the realtor, but they're not talking to you because you're wearing a uniform. And this comes down to your avatar. We have to know who your ideal client is. Now, a lot of you want to go sell luxury, or who wouldn't want to start working with multi-million-dollar clients? But it takes a courageous individual to stare in the mirror to recognize who they have the most success with selling with right now. So if your sphere of influence isn't like high price point, highfalutin, if your wardrobe isn't highfalutin, if it's highfalutin the word we're going to use, yeah, it's kind of the word we're going to use. If your watch, your car, if that's not all highfalutin, you have to optimize who your first few sales are going to come from, and that's your avatar, right? So you're a new agent, you don't really have much of a sphere. Well, who are you, right? Like, are you a single mom? Are you a young guy in your 30s? Do you look like this, right? I would have a really hard time selling luxury, but I probably do pretty good with the downtown lofts and Sixth Avenue district and right in the North Tacoma area. And so you got to find out who you are. Now, y'all want to invest in professional photos. We want to look pretty. We want to do that. And so agents are often thinking, I want to look like the client that I want to sell to in 2 to 3 years. Well, paying for a rebranding package in 12 months would be a really good idea. The reason why you wouldn't want to do that is because you haven't grown, you haven't escalated your avatar. But I think the best thing you can do is master a price point, first-time home buyers. So your advertising, your branding, your marketing, your logo should look that way. Get so good at working with first-time home buyers in that first 6 to 9 months that you then earn the right to elevate, right, to a little bit more of a luxury brand, a little more black and white photo. Maybe it's a little bit higher in professional shots. But right now, probably where you're going to get the majority of your business are your friends, your loved ones, and their referrals. And so they already know who you are. So one of these pictures where you're like, I just don't know. That might look dope. That looks professional, but I think you'll probably be a little bit more winsome and wooful with your personality, who you are, a little bit more casual, knowing that the best thing you can hope for is that you sell so many homes that a year from now, you get to rebrand with that higher image, that higher luxury point. So not just knowing what your brand is, but knowing who you have the most likely chance of selling the next 6 to 8 homes to is who I think you should base your avatar off of. Now, I'm going to talk about your car for a minute, which I hate this because the last thing I want you to do is go out and buy a fancy car. And so when I first started selling real estate, I bought a $5,000 car. It was a Volvo XC70. It was like a station wagon looking thing. I realized that they had made that same car for like 14 years in production. Volvo, it's really prudent. And so the car I bought was like a 2005, but they were making that car all the way up to like 2015 or so. And so by the time I got it, the car had like 200,000 miles on it, but it looked sharp from the outside. And I just made sure every time I showed clients, I had it washed, right? It had so many miles on it. The windshields even began to crack, but I just kept it washed and nice and then vacuumed and clean because I knew that when I was parking my car, clients were going to walk by it and see it. And so keeping anything in your car, it's not just you, it's your car, it's your brand, it's the whole package. Now, I will tell you that from that car, I upgraded to a CRV, a Honda CRV, because I was still really conscious. And that was my commuter car. I was driving a lot. And it wasn't until my 3rd year of real estate that I bought a nice car. I bought an Acura, an RDX. And I did have a client that I've been working with a little bit ago. It's about time you bought a realtor car. And it kind of stung me a little bit because I was like, oh, I didn't really know they were paying attention to my car. But I want to be the one to tell you your clients are. And if you can't do anything about it, fine. But I want you to know your car is your office. And so the clothes you wear, don't go buy luxury. Mervyn's is great, but they should be pressed, ironed, and neat. And the presentation of your car is going to say a lot about who you're going to be able to sell to. All right, guys, that's it. Quick video. But I didn't want to waste any class time doing this. This is why I want it to be a one-off video. All right, now I'm going to hang up, stop recording. See, my technology.